change this chart to be daily cadence and um, over the past 6 months. Let's see if we could do this. This is actually a challenging thing for it to do.
I believe so. Because I gave it some of the math to do too. I use the old equations that they're doing for the average.
Well, what I mean that this is di would be difficult to do
Uh-huh.
is getting that much data from a broker is actually quite difficult,
Oh, yeah,
right? And there's a lot of calculations to do around that.
yeah,
So
that's what
I'm curious to see if whether it could handle that, right?
that that was my question. Remember I asked a long time ago, I wonder if we can just create one bot that just does monitors the indicators and have it bounce go to the one and analyze it with the one that we're actually doing our strategy with.
What do you mean by that exactly?
It's like so it doesn't do so you have one bot that's going to do all the calculations for you, right? And then what instead of doing the calculations and doing the strategy, you break up the workload, right? So you have your bot doing the you have one bot doing the calculation for the indicator, then the other one is just grabbing the data from the indicators and using it for your strategy. So you have two different bots doing it.
I don't know if I would do it that way. I think that's like really overcomplicates it. Like it would be a
Yeah.
lot easier if it was just inside of one bot. Like
Okay.
this is like you doing your analysis. You're doing your analysis. You want to figure out is this a good idea or not, or you want to place a trade directly, right? That's how you'd be doing all this analysis here. But when it's within a bot, like it needs to like live within that bot, like everything,
Mhm.
right? Otherwise, how are you going to get these services to communicate to each other? It just makes things so much more complicated. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was doing. Oh, okay.
Yeah, but that being said, what I think we can do is we can make it so that if you're doing any of these charts like this, once you've created a chart, you can say, take this chart and use it in my bot,
Oh yeah, not true.
right? And it
Okay.
could just like it's all Python code. So you just copy that code from one spot over to the other.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the way that we've been building this going forward. So it's like you can do all this analysis, do all your graphs, all that kind of stuff. And
Mhm.
then when you're ready, you can say, okay, I want it to trade when it's above here, when it's doing this, show me that on a graph, blah, blah, blah. And say, okay, take that and turn that into a strategy. There you go. Right? I think that'd be really powerful. Right? Because
Yeah.
you could start off by like just doing chart analysis, whatever, and just placing trades manually. And then once you start seeing that you're doing this more often, you can say, okay, well, let's turn this into a bot and let's start having this thing get scheduled on a regular basis. Right? Okay, so let's see this here. So August 11th, August 3rd, June 24th. Nope, it's not doing it. June 16th, June 8th. So we asked it to do daily, but it did not do daily. Okay, so we found an issue here. Okay, so far this is actually working pretty well. I'm actually pleasantly surprised by the changes that you made. However, we ran into a snag. All right, so the first part was really good. Read over this conversation that I had with it and this AI agent. But I told it to make a Fibonacci. It did a good job with that. Then I told it to add stochastic oscillator and volume, and it did a pretty good job with that. Although there's one little detail here in that the volume is not lining up to the rest of the graph. And it's kind of in a pretty specific way. So if I like select volume at the bottom here, notice volume for March 20th, there's like a straight line down, but it does not line up with the circles in the line graphs, right? And then as I move through it, in the middle, they perfectly line up, right? The circles on the line graph line up exactly with the center of the bar for volume. But then as I go further right, they're off in the opposite direction, right? Like look here where on the right-hand side, I'm at the center of the volume bar, but the line graph has the circles, like the actual spots where it's on the line graph is off. So basically the volume and the line graph do not line up to each other properly. It's almost like the volume is compressed and the line graphs are spread out and they need to match up when you're looking at volumes and all that kind of stuff, or else it's confusing. It looks weird. Okay, and then another thing that went wrong here is things broke down when I asked it to change the chart to be daily cadence over the past 6 months. There's two failures that happen here. First of all, the running isolated Python test, the first one failed. Why did it fail? We need to figure out why it failed and make sure that we don't have failures like this again in the future. We need to avoid tool call failures in general. And then the second problem, and this is the bigger problem, is when it eventually actually worked, which is I'm glad that it retried and did it again and fixed itself. But the problem is I asked it for daily and it did not give me daily. It gave me weekly cadence here. I asked for daily and it gave me weekly, right? So it did not listen to me. So I'm wondering how, like, what exactly is the problem here? First, please just do the analysis around all this and tell me what's happening. And then let's talk about how to fix all these issues. I personally think we probably need an eval specifically around changing this chart to be daily cadence. And we probably need to have an eval around that. And then we need to figure out like why this thing didn't work. Because I've actually found that this is one of the biggest failure modes with this is if I tell it to go from monthly cadence to weekly cadence to daily cadence, right? It doesn't actually listen to me properly, right? Like what I mean by this is like, okay, the last data point is August 11th. The second to last is August 13th, so 8 days prior, but it should have been one day apart. The data point before that is July 24th, 2026. So that's, again, a week plus a bit more. Like it's not even like weekly. It's like 8 days apart each time, which is even stranger. If it was weekly, that would make a little bit more sense. But some of these data points they're apart from each other in really weird ways. Right? So I asked for daily and it did not give me daily. It gave me something that's not even really weekly either. I don't know what the heck this is. So we probably need to have evals or something like that around this to actually make sure that that works properly. Okay. What do you think about the look of this, by the way, Maurizio?